Firstly, today, let me add a couple of words to what we have discussed last week, and that was on the last of the fourfold reliance. And we saw that on the last one, what was it? You can remember? Is reliance on, is a very, very subtle, profound teaching on knowledge, on jnana, or jnana in Sanskrit, and not on vijñāna in Sanskrit. Okay? On jnana and not on vijñāna. So I依智不依識, 依智不依識. Okay? It's a very profound, very important teaching, and it can be understood at different levels. At the ordinary level, we may say that it's a teaching that we should not be superficial in our investigation into facts, into our experiences, into our understanding of other people. We are used to looking at the surface, and we are used to trust our sensory perception too much. For example, to understand a person, we feel the person, we think we know the person, we hear what the person says, we see what he is doing, and we think we understand that person. But mostly we understand just from our ordinary sensory perception of that person. And we miss many things. Maybe what we have perceived are only certain aspects of that person. In fact, the way we sense through our different sensory consciousnesses, this is vijñāna or vijñāna, are in fact affected, conditioned by our own psychological factors. If we like the person, suddenly we see so many things good about that person. If we have misunderstood the person to begin with, or we have some negative experiences of that person, we tend to see everything, we tend to interpret everything automatically in our sensory understanding of that person in a negative way. And to sum up, that is our problems nowadays, today, in human relationship, in communication. So this teaching has a very, very practical significance, that we must not just rely on superficial, sensory, ordinary understanding, if you like, cognition of facts and of people. And we must bear in mind that our sensory cognitions are usually distorted, are deeply conditioned. I'm going to talk a little bit about it to link up with what I lecture about this time in Beijing. I just came back from that lecture. I don't think I have time to go into the whole thing. They have recorded the whole lecture, they have videoed the whole lecture. I don't know whether they are allowed to now put it on the website, but the publicity certainly is on the website. Anyway, coming to this verse. So this is the teaching we find from early Buddhism, and not confined to early Buddhism. It's throughout the whole of Buddhism. It's fourfold reliances. So a very, very practical, very important guide for our own living. Now from this, I want to give another example, to add another example, to show the profound significance of the teaching. Just now I talked about ordinary, the common man, you and me, common man's experiences in daily life. Actually, the Buddha has taught also that if we can truly understand the conditioning of our ordinary experiences and go beyond it, and truly can transcend this conditioning and go to the very rawness, if you like, with the rawness, very directly into reality, into our sense data directly, then we can be truly creative. We can truly transform ourselves. Our life, our communication, our relationship will be very different. In Buddhist term, we have to gain insight, and the insight is represented in this context by the word jnana or jnana. I told you that jnana itself, or jnana, means understanding of knowledge. So I use the term in a very ordinary way. But in this context, clearly it's a contrast to vijñāna. Vijñāna is conditioned, is reactive, is bifurcating. It's polarized into subject, object, and therefore all problems arise. And I have given the example of Yogacarya's emphasis on the transformation of this kind of mode of thinking, this kind of mode of conditioning, the mode of vijñāna into the mode of jnana. Again, this jnana means insight here. You can even equate it in this particular context with panya or pratya, actually. So therefore, the ultimate goal of Yogacarya practice, which I believe is the correct Buddhist practice, is the attainment of this transformation in you. How to transform our ordinary mood of the conditioned, reactive type of mental operation, of consciousness, of cognizing ourselves, others, and the world, all our experiences, right? Giving us problem, giving others problem, giving the world problem. How to do that? Transform this into a mode of operation that is free from polarization, free from dualistic bifurcation, that is free from discrimination. But a very important term is free from conceptualization, free from vikalpa, so to attain a state of operation that is, as I said, capable of experiencing things in their rawness, directness. Early Buddhism uses the term yatha-bhuta. Later Buddhism equally uses that word too, but of course it elaborates in other terms, and vikalpa is one. How to transform a vikalpa, vikalpaka is an adjective, right? Type of vijñāna into a jnana that is avikalpaka, that is that is non-conceptual discrimination. That is the whole goal defined by that. You can say that is the goal of Buddhism, and that is perfectly in harmony, perfectly in line with early Buddhism, with the true teaching of the Buddha. And that's why I emphasize that when we want to understand the Buddha teaching, we should transcend the sectarian attitude. And this is not what we say, this is not in our text. Then it must be inferior or something wrong, or at least not ultimate. And that's very narrow. That will be against the advice within the context of this fourfold reliance. What is that? on the meaning and not the letter. And we must rely on the Dharma and not the Putkala. So if we are attached to a tradition or a particular set of texts, thinking that that alone defines Buddhism, and we cannot go beyond that. Our texts, our traditions are superior. That's against even the spirit of the Kalama Sutta also. So, you know, these four reliances are interrelated, and the more you think about it, the more you realize that it's a very, very central, important guideline for us. Right? So coming back to this last one just now, talking about reliance on, now I can rephrase this, reliance on insight, true insight, that is free from conceptualization. When we conceptualize, is this, is that, is me, is others, this is external object, this is me perceiving the object, the perceiver, the perceived, then we fall into the trap. We react, and we react in a way that we have been conditioned, and problems, dukkha, follows. Problems arise. So for this, let me also add another teaching here from the text of early Buddhism. But mind you, it is not just only in the Pali text, it is also in the Chinese agamas. I have shown that in my lectures. I didn't quote this time in Beijing, but in my other lectures here, I have said many times. You remember, there is the teaching of Bahia, the Buddha's instruction of Bahia. That I think beautifully, this morning I was thinking what to say, and it comes to my mind. It's a beautiful illustration on this teaching of solving human problems of relationship and communication, and in fact problem of dukkha, if you like. That's why I said this teaching, the fourth Pratisarana, can be understood at different levels. At a very, very profound level, it is actually a teaching of attaining the insight of enlightenment, of transcending dukkha. It's as profound as that. It all depends on how you look at it. So what is the story? What is the you remember the context? The advice by the Buddha? Bahia was desperate to want a concise teaching of the Buddha. He was not interested in lengthy, philosophical discourses. He felt about the urgency of life. He knew that everything is impermanent, and he could die anytime. In fact, the story says that he died shortly after that, and having been run over by a bull. He sensed that. He sensed anicca. He sensed that even Buddha, in his human body, you see, anything can happen to him. That when anything happens to the Buddha, either Buddha is not with us, or he himself has an accident or something, then we won't have a chance to understand the Dhamma. We won't be liberated. So he was so desperate for a brief teaching. Please tell me, please give me a brief thing, and I will vow, I will promise, of course I'm just paraphrasing, that I will practice fully, I will devote to it fully, urgently, immediately. And the story says that he requested the Buddha 3 times. When the Buddha was in Pitapata. And it's only then that on the 3rd time the Buddha turned around and told him just a brief teaching as Bahia wanted. And he says, Ditte Dittamattam Bhavisati. Sute sutamattam bhavisati. Mute mutamattam bhavisati. Viññāte viññātamattam bhavisati. So, 4 things. Sutte means in what is seen. You can interpret that to mean in what is seen. Ditte. So ditte from ditta. You can also interpret means in the seen, in the data of our experience, what we see, or in the very process, very act of seeing. Ditte. Dittamattang means there is the mere seen or the mere seeing, and no more. And note the verb. The verb is bhavisati. Bhavisati is, you can say, this is from Bu. It has a dynamic sense. It comes to be. So bhavisati means it will come to be. It's not an ontological statement saying that there is this, there is that. Not an ontological claim or assertion. But it tells us what will arise, what will occur, what will come to be. The Buddha said in that first statement is, in seeing only the seeing, or in the seen only the seen will be, will occur, will come to be. You have to practice like this. Sute sutamattam means, bhavisati means, in the heard, in hearing. This is what happens to us. We see, in experience, we see, we hear, right? In seeing or in the seen, only the, in hearing or the heard, only the hearing, only the heard. The word mutta actually is meant to sum up all the other sensory processes, perceptions, other than seeing, hearing, and cognizing. So, in the, you can say, sensed, only the sensed. Then the last one, viññāte, means in the cognized, in what we are conscious of, in the cognized, only the cognized. So that word only is very, very important. The point is that in our ordinary experiences, we superimpose, we add something. And Yogacara said that we conceptualize. And that's precisely that's a problem that Buddhism, whether it is early Buddhism or Yogacara or the whole of Buddhism, points out to us. We can't help. Instinctively, automatically, superimpose in all our experience, sensory experiences. We see something, we immediately, either we get attracted to it or to the person, or we get dispelled from it. Even when we, as I said, as I give the example, we cognize, immediately we react. If we like the person, we see good things. If we don't like the person, he's always bad, whatever he does. That's the human tragedy, you know. We get trapped like this. That is called the reactive cycle. You cannot go out of the cycle. I like to describe it often in terms of the cycle. That is a cyclic mode of operation of our mind, our consciousness. We call it the reactive mind. But there's the other mode, the spiritual mode, if you like, the creative mode. That is the spiral mode. The spiral goes out of the cycle. You still are not perfected. You still go around, but higher and higher around. So like a spiral, you spiral up. That describes the aim of spiritual practice. That's what we should aim at. Progressively spiral further and further up. Up means transcending. I use that word very often also. Not escaping, but transcending. You see here, for instance, we're not denying our sense experience. How can we? When they are the data and we have the senses, we experience them. Even the Buddha has to experience the sensory data. Even the Buddhist saints have to. You know, in Yogacara Buddhism, there's a type of knowledge, of cognition called the Prishtalapta jhana. Prishtalapta means subsequently acquired. So in his meditation, he knows that everything is actually non-paralyzed, truly as they are. And in Yogacara context, he knows that everything is nothing but a projection of the mind. But when he comes out of that insight, that meditation, and when he operates in the world, he cannot help sensing all various data. For instance, even the Buddha felt stomach ache, felt tired, and he needed to lie down, right? If Buddha had to pass away, any saint had to pass away. So we cannot deny our sense that that's what can we do. So we can't escape from them. Even when you have psychological problems, it's wrong to try to escape from them. The more you escape from them, the more seriously we become trapped. So the solution is to gain insight into your way of experiencing things. The mode of mental operation is to gain insight. So in the Buddha's advice to Bahia, he says, ditte mattang bhavisati, means in the seen, etc., in the seen, in the heard, in the felt or sensed, in the cognized, only that very process of cognizing, mere, 唯識個唯啊，見中唯見，或者話為所見，聞中為所聞，覺中為所覺，識中為所識。Very profound teaching, very concise, and that's what Bahia was expecting. So the problem is that we don't do like this. Usually we just allow ourselves automatically, and it's not easy even if we know. It's not a question of knowing, understanding, oh yeah, it's wrong, we have to operate in this mode. You cannot just tell yourself like this. You know? If you're a nasty person or egotistic person, you know it's not good, it's wrong, but you cannot help behaving that way. Yeah? In Yogacara Buddhism, this is a question of perfuming, and actually it's karmic also, at least partly you can say. The way, more general term is conditioning, of past and present conditioning that make us like this automatically. When we see something, we don't just see that thing, we add, I am seeing that thing. Then worse still is when we have experienced that data, we get trapped into our Vedana, our Sanjna. Then papancha comes, as in the Madhupindika Sutta, we get trapped. There's a mental proliferation. The word is papancha. This is the cycle. We get trapped. Get more and more and more and more prapan. Prapanch. Pran is to spread. To diffuse, to expand. Pra means forth. That's the way the Buddha is taught, the way we experience data. And that's how we get trapped, that's how we get problems. That's how we misunderstand others, misunderstand ourselves, misunderstand the world. So if we can be, like the Buddha has taught, relying on, this time is around the jnana in that sense, the insight that transcends this conceptual addition, the prapancha, and we break the circle, we spiral out without acting on anything. That's why matta is there, not anything else, just that sensing, not I sensing another person, another object outside. The I and other, that is polarization, that is bifurcation. And once that starts, we cannot stop the process. We get trapped. We begin to judge automatically. Oh, this is good, this is nice, I want to possess this. This is bad, this is against me, I hate it. So love, hatred, relationships, misunderstanding, attachment, all these problems arise. So the Buddha has told us the solution. So I said that this solution sounds very simple, so simple, just a few sentences. He said that when Bahya, on hearing this, he immediately put into practice, and instantly he was liberated. Is it so simple? Actually, of course, it's not when you analyze psychologically. Because Bahya, first of all, was absolutely motivated. The motivation comes in any creative education, in creative experience. The motivation is very important. If you really want to know something, you will learn. If you really want to solve a problem, you will solve it. If you really want enlightenment, you will be enlightened one day. So motivation is so powerful, so important. We are, all our experiences, positive and negative, are conditioned by the motivation. So the first condition is to be absolutely motivated, like in the case of Bahya. He felt impermanence about himself, about the whole world. He was desperate to want to find the path, the marker for the Arahant. He wanted to meet an Arahant or someone who has attained the Arahant marker path, and he was asking, please tell me where I can meet someone like this. Because he at first misunderstood and thought that he was under illusion that he was an Arahant. Then he was told, no, you are not an Arahant. He was told by a Devata. And then he really, all he wanted in his mind is, I don't want anything else. I don't want to go back to my life as a merchant, to be rich. I have transcended those values. I just want to be enlightened. I just want to be an Arahant. And with that motivation, with that psychological background, he went to the Buddha. He asked for that teaching. Normally you say, yeah, I'm interested in Buddhism, I come and join a course, or come to Sunday and listen to this course or something like that. But you know, how deeply are we motivated? That depends on you see. Some people hear something from me, for example. Actually, it's not from me. I have learned from the Buddha, So they derive tremendous inspiration. You see? Just a few words enough to change their life. Others listen to me thousands of times, the same repetition. Nothing happens. And sometimes even worse. So, that motivation, that sincerity, that mindfulness, all these factors are very important. This is psychology. Psychology of learning, psychology of social practice, psychology concerning how we deal with our problems. So, in the case of Bahya, he was absolutely motivated, absolutely sincere, We have to learn to be like this, you know. We can't be perfect. I don't claim I'm perfect. Perhaps I'm the most imperfect among you. But I think we must always have sincerity. We must be committed. So in the case of coming back to that story, that teaching. So what the Buddha is saying is that that you don't escape from your same experience. You can't, but you can transcend it. You must be mindfulness, the hinges of mindfulness. You must be mindful that your mind is operating reactively, not creatively. Operating in the cyclic mood, not the spiral mood. And to gain that mindfulness, sometimes it requires a lifelong practice. So that's what I say. It sounds like so simple. You hear something, you get instantly enlightened. You know, by the way, I think that later in Chinese Buddhism, in Zen Buddhism, Chan Buddhism, there are a lot of stories like this, you know. And the master just say a few words, and or someone hears a phrase from Hui Neng, heard the teaching from the Vajrasattva Sutra, and he gained insight like that. Yeah? So at one level it sounds so simple, so easy, but now actually you have to realize the whole background, the whole samsaric background, the whole lifelong preparation, and the motivation, deep motivation, the person, the seeker involved in such cases, what they really want. So what you want, you come here, is it just to satisfy me or satisfy Buddha-Dharma Center or, or your tradition? Or is it really you want to know yourself and really want to transform yourself and learn something from the Buddha? That depends on you, actually. So your own conditions are very, very important. Your motive is very important. So come back to this story. So Bhaya was fully, absolutely motivated. By the way, this is Suzuki also. I was saying just now about the story in Zen master. You know, sometimes a master just slap you, kick you, and then you get enlightened. It sounds like, oh, it's a funny story. It may be interesting, but is it realistic? Is it, you know? It can actually happen, but it doesn't happen to you or anybody easily. You have to realize that that seeker, as I said, has been prepared psychologically, spiritually, for his or her whole life. Then he met a master, someone that he really wanted to learn, really believed that the master is more enlightened than he, and very, very sincere, very, very motivated. And that instant, he just needed to hear a few words, like Bhaya. He heard those few words. So that teaching is to say that in the case of Buddha's advice to Bhaya, we must rely on our jnana, not our vijñāna. We means to separate, to bifurcate, to polarize into subject-object. But to be directly into that so-called object. So in that situation, there's only the process of seeing, no eye seeing a thing. The seer and the seen, the subject, no such bifurcation. Once a bifurcation comes in, there will be conceptualization, there will be papancha. You see? So if you can reach that kind of mode of operation, we will be enlightened, like in the case of Bhaya. So it's a very, very profound psychology, and not only psychology in the ordinary sense. Very, very profound, even spiritual teaching, spiritual guidance for us. If you stick to just that, in a way it is enough. So, to sum up, concerning the fourth, reliance, relying on jnana and not vijñāna, You see, you can understand it to mean that we must rely on insight that transcends conceptualization, that transcends reactivity, that transcends conditioning. And when you can do that, that is creative. You see, only then you can talk about creativity. So on that, rather than on the common man's mode of mental operation, right? In cognition. That teaching is one of the most beautiful, actually, throughout the whole of early Buddhism. One of the most inspiring, and it can link up. You know, that story itself, that teaching itself, can link up both early Buddhism and later developed Buddhism. If you like, Theravada and Mahayana. Forget about the jnana, forget about the tradition thing. You see, go beyond that. You can interpret it to say Buddha is teaching Chan, is teaching Chen, 嗰個就係禪啦，何謂禪？飲一杯茶又係禪，破柴掃地都係禪，係咪真係你能夠做得到咧？如果你真係能夠做得到，你其實就好似巴依咁，好似佛陀所講啊，見中為見，唯有嗰個見；聞中為聞等等。This is also nowadays emphasized as vipassana meditation, satipatthana meditation. You find it there. People talk so much about being in the present. They say all you need is to be in the present, and they make a big fuss about it and say, you know, and that's why we understand that teaching, we experience life more fully and so on. Of course, I don't object to that teaching. Of course, that's the teaching of the Buddha. But honestly, how often, how much, to what extent can we do like that? We have to be sincere. It's so easy to tell others, to teach others. You know, ask ourselves, you know, that requires profound mindfulness to be in the present. In fact, almost all the time, I say almost, I can't exclude the instance of creativity. Almost all the time, our mind is reactive. Our mind is not in the present. So, knowing that we should be like that, knowing is one thing. Intellectual understanding of the Buddha thing is one thing. But you must practice. Especially, that is the teaching of meditation. You must do meditation. Now you might have thought in mind, if that's the case, then however sincere I am, I can't be like that. What should I do? Well, start doing meditation. That is the answer. That's the most practical answer. Last week I talked about the word bhavana. Bhavana is a word used to mean meditation now, these days. Not only these days, even in ancient time also, it came to be one of the synonyms for meditation. But actually the word itself means cultivation or development. It's a causative. To make become. To make become means you have to practice repeatedly. That's what bhavana is. So to such an extent that I said that if you do bhavana, you are Buddhist. If you don't do, you are not real Buddhist. Doesn't matter how learned you are. You know, in the sutras, and how much Pali you know, how much Sanskrit you know, how much Chinese you know, how many discourses you have read, it doesn't matter. Those can be useful at a certain level, in a certain sense, but they can only really transform you, make you creative when you do bhavana. Because it is only when you do bhavana that you come to a deeper or higher level of your consciousness. You begin to transform yourself in a way that you don't know. You don't know what's happening when you do meditation. This is my deep faith. That is why meditation is absolutely a part of my life. I don't style as a meditation master, never. Huh? Well, I have conducted retreats and all these things, but I don't want to give that image. But it's part of my humble daily practice. And I think that it's not just for myself. I want to emphasize it, not to show that I'm better Buddhist, but to emphasize it. That if you really sincerely say that you are a follower of the Buddha, you have understood the Buddha's teaching, then you must meditate. And you don't have to escape into the forest and live a fully meditative life. That's wonderful, that's good, but that depends on your temperament, depends on possibilities and so on in different cases. But everybody can meditate at least for a short time daily. That's my message. You can do 10 minutes, you can do 20 minutes. That's what bhavana is. Make become. Cultivate. Practice. 我哋講修行，修行嗰個修就係呢個字嚟嘅，就係 bhavana。原來修行其實咩咧？真係啊，修行就係禪修嚟嘅。It says we have spiritual practice. That practice. That word is one of the important connotation, most important connotation of the word bhavana. So Bahiya must have been meditating, practicing when he was in the island. He had a shipwreck, he was drifted, and he ended in an island, and he lived a simple life, and he began to realize what existence, what life was, what human existence was, and he knew the illusion of his past life as a rich merchant, and all his mind was occupied about earning more money and becoming a more successful merchant. And suddenly he had a shipwreck one day when he was going out on a business trip. He realized he was lucky enough to survive, otherwise he would have been gone however rich he had been, you see. And in that process he realized the beauty of simplicity. He lived so simply that it was said that he just moved around in 3 bunks, and he begged for food, and he felt tremendous release and happiness compared to the life he had led as a merchant. So at a time when he was capable of going back and he was in full health and he got the support of the villagers, he didn't want any more. No more of all those things. His very system was totally changed, totally transcended. What did he want? Only one thing: to transcend dukkha, or to be enlightened. There's just different ways of describing, expressing that ultimate aim of human existence. You can also say that the aim of human existence is the full unfoldment of your human potentiality. You don't have to call it Buddhism, call it anything. That should be the goal. And according to the humanistic psychologists I told you, like Fromm and others, that ideal is within everybody. That ideal manifests in different forms, different degree, but everybody wants to find meaning in life, wants to find ultimate goal to devote to, ultimate purpose to devote to. So we should allow that process, that need to unfold. And if we don't allow and don't encourage, don't help that process, we get into trouble. We have mental sickness. We have depression. We suffer. We feel empty. we feel like suiciding. We create problem not only for ourselves, but begin to hate the world. We feel that life is just meaningless. That's because we do not learn to, we do not allow, we do not encourage that process within us of unfolding our human potential. When that potential is fully unfolded to the highest, then you become a so-called Buddha, enlightened person. In that sense, Buddhism is humanistic. So we can understand the profundity of this fourth fold of reliance. Let's repeat again. Reliance on jnana and not vijñāna. It's very difficult to translate. You can say reliance on direct insight, true insight, and not on conceptual bifurcation, not on superficial sensory perception. How we become benefited by that teaching, that depends on our own levels of understanding of that Dhamma and our practice of that Dhamma. I was going on to link it up with what I said in Beijing, because it's all about actually meditation. Just now I also talked about meditation actually. But I think it's getting late now, and maybe I'll leave it. If I don't feel like saying a different thing, I might say it, I might explain, I might share with you next week.